before 2010, there were small changes in the vaccine laws where they changed like a form, or they said, a certain signature didn't go here or there. And then in 2015, something really big happened, which it was a bill called SB 277. SB 277 took away from parental rights the ability to personally, have a personal belief exemption, any philosophical exemptions, your ability to use your own choice and sovereignty. And then they also took away religious exemption. At the time we are at right now, they're opening up this whole EUA for kids. The reason why the EUA is important, the reason why they opened it up for the kids, is because once they pass it through all the way down, like Tony Fauci says, to the 6 months of age, what they will then do is through ACIP, which is the part of the CDC that determines what goes on the adult and the child schedule, as soon as that vaccine goes on the child schedule, it is under the 1986 Act complete liability free forever. There is no way to hold anybody accountable forever.
It's going to be up to the FDA in their usual fashion to make a regulatory decision, and then a few days later, likely the following week, the CDC, in tune with their advisory committee, will make a recommendation for the use of the vaccine in children 5 to 11. I think it's a very important step in the direction of getting more and more people in the country vaccinated.
It was kind of like this weird coincidence where I had a patient who received one of the COVID-19 vaccines. It was Moderna. And she came in for her regular blood work a week later. I had no idea she had the vaccine. And her blood work was so abnormal that the lab called me and was like, what is going on? This person might have to go to the hospital. Like, their heart enzymes were super high, this thing called pro-BNP, and their inflammatory numbers were through the roof, like they had an infection or something going on. And I was like, I called the patient, like, what is going on? Are you feeling okay? And they're like, I feel fine. Like, I got the vaccine. I had like a lymph swelling and an inflammatory thing for a day or two, but I felt fine. But even a week later, her blood work was that abnormal. And I was like, that's a problem. Like, how common is that? I have no idea, but I know 16% of women are getting that lymph swelling. So I'm like, if this is happening in their blood work to that many people, it's a problem. So I called some local MDs and some DOs, and they were like, that's not good at all, because that's basically what bad COVID blood work looks like. So if the vaccine is creating a blood work panel that looks a lot like the actual infection, that could be really bad. So I started doing more research on people pre and post vaccine, all at my own cost. I was like paying a couple $100 per person just to do this blood work, because people didn't want to do it, because they didn't want to see what their blood work looked like after the vaccine, because it could have been really bad, like this patient. And lo and behold, like I'd say maybe 50% of them had blood work that looked close to that bad or really bad, and every single patient pre-post blood work had changes in higher inflammation, higher plaque risk, higher heart stress, higher liver enzymes or gallbladder enzymes. Every single pre-post blood work looks awful, right? Because I called other doctors and they were like scared. They were like, we don't want to get into this. Like, I'm like, you could do the testing yourself and find out. They're like, we believe you, but we can't share this, or like, we'll lose our hospital jobs, we'll lose our clinic. They have like integrated medical clinics in Chicago. So it was like, okay, well, someone's got to say it.
All right, my name is Dr. Ben Tapper, and this is our first episode of the Time Is Now podcast, and I am sitting down with one of my heroes, a man that I have a ton of respect for and a lot of excitement to be sitting down with, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine, Dr. Robert Malone. Welcome, and thanks for sitting down with me. How did you get into this type of work? How did you come about of developing the mRNA, and just kind of fill us in on that?
So first off, mRNA is a biologic molecule. I didn't invent it. It's a fundamental aspect of biology. DNA makes RNA, RNA makes protein. Number two, I didn't invent these mRNA vaccines. I didn't work on these mRNA vaccines. I have been a critic of these mRNA vaccines and how they've been designed and deployed and tested, and the bioethics associated with them. But I did invent, quite literally, the core platform technology. That happened between 1987 and 1989 at both the Salk Institute and then to some extent at Vical, a startup company that was launched in La Jolla nearby the Salk Institute. It happened when I was a graduate student and I was focused on questions about retroviral vectors, and I was asking questions about how RNA gets packaged into retroviruses. And so to do that, I had to develop a suite of technologies and capabilities in order to ask the questions that I wish to ask. That is what gave rise to what we now call the mRNA vaccine platform. There's a couple of significant advances since I did my work in the late 80s that resulted in 9 domestic U.S. patents and numerous international patents, all of which I'm an inventor on. So when I say I'm the inventor of mRNA vaccines, I'm not just saying it. Inventorship, in my opinion, is something that's established by the U.S. Patent Office, and I am absolutely the original inventor, filed the original disclosures, etc. I'm of the opinion that it's about a individual freedom to choose, importance of informed consent, and a risk-benefit analysis stratified by risk group, not by whole population. And I am absolutely upset with the perversion that's happened in my field that seems to historically have been sparked by what I'm sure was the best intentions of government officials providing indemnification to vaccine companies and setting up the Vaccines for Children program through the CDC. I have to assume that the bulk of the politicians that voted in those programs and wrote that legislation were not just total tools of the pharmaceutical industry, consciously tools of the pharmaceutical industry. I think a case can be made that they were tools and were being used, but I have to hope that they weren't at least conscious of it. But now we're dealing with this insane situation where we've created perverse incentives for my industry to just go off the rails. But we have created a system in which the vaccine companies have strong financial incentives to really abuse public health for profit.
News just out from Johnson & Johnson. The company announcing that it has struck an agreement with the U.S. government to provide 100 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine candidate. The government, meantime, has committed to more than $1 billion as part of that agreement.
If you look up the criminal history of Pfizer, they have paid billions of dollars on multiple occasions for lying, for falsifying data, for bribing doctors, for withholding clinical trial information, for knowingly causing harm. These aren't things they've done on accident. There's been plenty of whistleblowers from these industries who have said they actually do cost-benefit analyses to determine if they are still going to come out on top and make a profit even if they knowingly cause harm and they knowingly mislead people. These are the people that we are entrusting with our health and entrusting to make these shots. And then we have Moderna, who has never brought a successful product to market prior to COVID-19. This is their first product that they have brought to market, and keep in mind the context of the industry that they are coming from. So we have that, and then we have the actual data on the shots, right? Does not limit transmission, does not confer immunity, has zero long-term safety data. Zero. This technology has been studied before. mRNA technology has been studied for some time. They have tried it in previous ways as a therapeutic. But it has never been used before in human beings, especially not with delivering the material to generate synthetic spike proteins. That has never been done before. You cannot sue the manufacturers if you are harmed or killed. And to top it all off, if we are accepting that there is a virus that causes this disease, it has a 99.8% survival rate. So we're supposed to blindly accept that this product is for us and that we need this product to be healthy. And then somehow we have been convinced to believe that these experts have our best interest in mind. If the experts had our best interest in mind, then they would focus on all those things that their very own data shows are causing people to be in a disease state. And they have not mentioned one word of it. Not one. Instead, they have put $3 billion towards advertising, a taxpayer-funded program, $3 billion to advertise for this experimental injection. It's unbelievable. It has nothing whatsoever to do with health. It has everything to do with control, and that is what they want. They want more control, more power, and more influence over our lives. And by us continually complying with this, we are willingly giving it to them, which is why it's so unbelievably important for people to share their authentic perceptions, always from a position of love and compassion, but share. The world needs to hear people's voices on this.
Let's talk about the censorship that is occurring with doctors and scientists. First and foremost, truth welcomes dialogue, and science is having a healthy dialogue. They always say that science is not settled. Well, let's talk about that. Science is observational. It's always there to learn more and to observe and to advance. Because if they say the science is settled, then that's it. We don't need to pursue science. It's already done. It's settled. And that's not true. Science is never settled. And if they try to take out the counter narrative voices like the other doctors or scientists that are speaking out, that's just corruption. It's not science. Science is having a dialogue through the lenses of observation. I love the quote by George Martin. He said, if you cut out a man's tongue, you don't prove him a liar. You're just fearful of what he might say. And censorship is demonic. It's evil. We need to have a dialogue, and truth welcomes that, especially when it comes to healthcare and science.
Oh man, have I experienced censorship? Yes, I have experienced censorship. I've been deleted off Instagram 3 times with no warnings whatsoever. I had 1 flagged post in total out of all 3 of those accounts that were deleted. And my nonprofit, Health Freedom for Humanity, within 2 months of existing, been deleted at the call of a news agency out of the UK saying that we were deliberately misleading people and trying to profit off people for the pandemic.
I was trying to give hints on social media. It's not what it seems like. There came a time when I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get a little bit louder because I can't do this anymore. It's like a constant nightmare every single day. One evening I got a text message, Aaron, come in, and in the morning, and I knew I was fired. So I recorded them firing me, and they said that was because of my social media. I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew that it was the right thing to do, and I wanted to save lives. They could take my license, you know, they could take my life, but at least it could throw a wrench in the death wheel, essentially, and stop it. I had over 200,000 followers, and one day I hopped on and it was gone. There was a lot of hate, a lot of death threats, physical death threats. I actually moved because of it into a gated community that I know I wasn't in before. There was threats to my kids. I had people sending me where they went to school, that they knew where they went to camp. They had pictures of my car. I mean, people were angry.
Facebook has censored me. Facebook has censored Angelia's son more so than her, because he posts a lot of her videos and they shadow ban me. And people post my things, nobody sees it on their news feed. I'm in last warning Facebook. They're gonna delete my account. They tag me for posting misinformation. TikTok. Who gets shut down on TikTok? I mean, I have seen some things on TikTok. All I have posted on TikTok are my videos, and I have been in TikTok jail 5 times for sharing my own life story. I am not sharing things from documentation from websites. I am not sharing any lies. I am literally sharing true videos of my life on what's going on for the past 7 months of my life.
I have been deplatformed twice. It starts with shadow banning, where they just change your reach, where they, you know, one day you reach 100,000 accounts, the next day you reach 5,000 accounts. It also comes with flags. It also comes with actually deleting your posts, which actually has never happened to me until 2 weeks ago. But before 2 weeks ago, I have been deplatformed, literally physically pulled off Instagram twice. And to me, it is a wild experience because one morning I'm like, yes, I got that video up. It was just about my morning routine to teach people what I do in the morning. Like, everyone's like, hey, how do you get your energy up on a day-to-day basis? I'm like, I'll shoot you a video. And I go on, I post it. I'm super stoked about it because I had been trying so long to get it up. I go upstairs because my daughter wakes up literally after I post it, and I come back down, I turn back on Instagram, and it basically logs you out. It says your account has been disabled, and you try to log back in, it says your account does not exist anymore. And then you try to learn more about it, and it tells you maybe in 30 days you can try to get your account back. The people who are getting deplatformed are getting deplatformed on the blink of an eye. And it's just no warning, no nothing, pull you off. And then you lose all the people who follow you, which is one thing. For the people who have businesses and livelihoods that run on social media, thankfully we didn't. But you lose the people that you follow. You lose your family. You lose your friends. You lose your ability to see my nephew being born and things like that.
By the end of January, literally after Senate testimony and after gaining national prominence in leading America and the world out of a major calamity, I was rewarded by an administrative meeting, and I was told my contract was not being renewed without any of the contractual due diligence of a contract renewal, which is tantamount to termination. I asked why. No reason. None. Zero. At that juncture, I didn't ever say a word about the vaccine. Like any other doctor, I thought it was safe coming out of the clinical trials. I didn't say a word about the vaccine. That was my reward for treating patients with COVID-19. And I wasn't alone. Prominent other doctors were shown the door because they treated patients with COVID-19. My practice was thriving, research was at a record high, all the program metrics of the programs I ran were metric high. It was the only change is that I treated patients with COVID-19. But as the data really started to emerge on vaccine safety, I could not remain silent. I could not. And it was pretty clear as the dialogue started to evolve that we were having a major problem on vaccine safety. The day they announced the vaccine mandate, the hospital must have gone to the press, and the two major newspapers in town published an article. Health system sues a skeptical doctor for vaccine comments, or some comment like that. And the allegations are that I am using the health system's name or my prior positions in making public statements. It's a clearly overt attempt at censorship. In fact, on my Wikipedia page, it's a whole section on COVID-19 misinformation. So they've already labeled me as giving misinformation, but in fact, I'm citing the literature. That's information. It's not misinformation. Now, doesn't this look bad? I've had a fake Wikipedia page made about me that claims that I'm giving COVID-19 misinformation. And now state medical boards are going to hunt doctors' medical licenses for misinformation. Who decides information and misinformation? But boy, do we have a David and Goliath. And I can tell you, I'm not going to flinch. And it's just, I am going to be incessant. I'm going to be dominant. And the truth will continue to come out.
It's like the social credit score. You got to be a good little citizen or you're going to be punished. And it's not this freedom of speech anymore. And because it's like the cancel culture. They're going to cancel you out if you go against the narrative. And that's what we're seeing. And that's a perfect example of it. Because if they can take out my money from PayPal and Venmo, what's next? The banks? I mean, this whole thing is as clear as can be. And it all reeks of a vaccine agenda. Yes, we speak out against vaccinations and the corruption thereof, but they don't like that. So they punished us. Because we know what's coming our way. Because soon, you're going to have a vaccine passport. You're not going to be allowed to enter the store, grocery shop, function in everyday society unless you have proof of the vaccine. That's coming our way. That's really a communistic characteristic, punishing you if you speak out against the authoritarian party or the one controlling the people. They don't like that. Don't ask questions and hammer the nail that sits up.
It's so telling because if this was truly about health and if this was truthful information, truth has no problem being challenged. A lie has problem being challenged. And if they were actually genuinely telling the truth on this, and we were genuinely just crazy conspiracy theorists who are deliberately misleading people, they would very easily be able to host us on any platform, any news station, especially the experts who have the balls to speak out from our side of the spectrum. If this was truly about truth, they would bring those people on their platforms, those dissenting experts, and debate them for the whole world to see, to dismiss all their claims right in front of everyone's faces. The reason that they censor people is not because we're too stupid to decide what's best for ourselves. The reason that they censor people is because they know you and everyone else listening are smart enough to determine, if fed information from both sides of the spectrum, which one is a bullshit lie.
What is this whole thing about? When you zoom out, when you look at the testing and notice that the testing is faulty, there's so much corruption and censorship, and there's so many holes in the story. Put on a mask or don't wear a mask, and all this back and forth of the politicians telling us one thing, Dr. Fauci talking on both sides of his mouth. And once you start seeing all the holes in the story, the holes in the narrative, and nothing's really adding up. Take all the emotions out of the story. Take all the politics out of the story. And what's really happening? Our society is changing as we know it, before our eyes. There's an agenda being pushed here on the people on a global scale. And people need to wake up and realize that there's an evil coming our way, and they're using Corona as the Trojan horse to implement all this agenda. And people need to wake up, because the time is now.
So where do we go from here? Is there hope?
Hope is the most powerful drug. There's always hope. Always hope. That's what we need to stand on, because the truth is on our side. More importantly, God is on our side. First and foremost, we need to understand that. And the power is in the people. The government works for us. We need to put them in check. Benjamin Franklin said, when the government fears the people, there's liberty. But when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. We need to understand that our voice matters. Get out and make a stand for truth. And fight for our medical freedoms. Fight for our freedom. Freedom isn't safe, but it's the safest thing we have.
Let's build community. Don't get wrapped up in the hate. The hate is a poison. Conflict can be productive, and it can be structured as win-win interactions where we're learning from each other and we have a dynamic, active tension, like you and me talking about vaccine safety. That's good. Okay? And conflict can result in a situation in which we start to label each other as the enemy and see each other as the enemy and behave against each other as the enemy and depersonalize each other. And that is win-lose. When we get to the point where we're so pissed off at each other that we don't care so long as if we have some pain, so long as the other person has even more pain. You know, we don't care if we lose lives so long as they lose more lives. Let's not go there, okay? We don't have to do that. We play into their narrative and their dysfunctionalism if we do that.
And I think the first step for everybody is to step back from the emotionality of it all. You know, modern news and politics and all this is so hypercharged with emotion that people aren't able to think critically anymore. You know, we've become this outraged society where we read headlines and make vast assumptions about things based on that. The amount of misinformation that comes from that is catastrophic, really. Being skeptical is a good thing. You know, and that goes for your politicians, that goes for your employer, that goes for anybody. It's good to question. And I don't think that as a society we do enough questioning.
This is our new life. COVID is going to keep spreading, is going to keep mutating, and we're going to keep getting strand after strand after strand. If we want to stand up, we got to take this country back, and we have got to start waking up.
It is so unbelievably important for you to get out of your toxic disease state, for you to heal your trauma, for you to intake proper nutrition, spend time in nature, for you to get out and exercise, for you to stop living in perpetual fear.
I hope it's not naive, the idea of turn the other cheek. If we don't stop hating each other and stop fighting rather than listening, we can never heal. I suggest we set aside our differences, we lead by example, try really hard to avoid the hate, don't go around just attacking the other side and slandering them just like we're being slandered.
The allopathic world serves a great purpose. Okay, it can be life-saving and trauma care. I love the wilted plant illustration, because if we look at a wilted plant and say, hey, what does that plant need? If we just sit back from an observational viewpoint and say, what does that plant need? The allopathic lenses and the allopathic model will say, I'm going to look at that plant and I'm going to cut the leaves off. I'm going to medicate or vaccinate that plant. But really, is that the best solution? The best solution would be to give that plant water, because that's what it needs, and that plant can be well. And you see, your body is no different. Your body constantly wants to heal itself. To give an example of that, if you had a broken arm, you go to the doctor, they cast the arm. 6 weeks later, the cast is removed, the body's healed. Wow. Who did the healing? Did the doctor, did the cast, or the innate intelligence inside the body? We need to understand that this life is a blink of an eye compared to eternity. And I can't even fathom what people go through that don't have that hope, because it can be a very scary place to be. They're fearful, their anxiety levels are high, they're hopeless. The Bible says, fear God. God is a God of love, and He loves us. And, John 3:16 states that God so loved the world that He gave His only Son for us, that whoever believes in Him will not perish but have everlasting life. Well, that's a God that loves us, that has grace. Grace means undeserving love. And I'm like, well, why did it say fear God? Fear God. Well, when we fear God and fear Him at the level that it's talking about, we surrender our life to Him. And so we need to understand that God is always for us, and we need to put our faith into Him and not give into this fear. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, sound mind. And we need to understand that. There's always hope. Always. Guys, thank you so much for watching. The Time Is Now. We just hope that it inspires you to be proactive in this fight. If you're one of those people that donate to this film, we sincerely thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This film was only made possible by your donations. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We know that God is on our side, truth is on our side, and we are on the right side of history. Sam Adams said it doesn't take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority lighting the brush fires of freedom in the minds of the people. So help us light those brush fires. Go to thetimeisnow.movie, not .com, .movie. There should be a link on the bottom of this video, but thetimeisnow.movie. Click on donate. That donation is going to help us get this film to the world. We're not doing this for prosperity or publicity. We're doing this because our convictions are greater than our complacency. Your voice matters. We need all the help we can get and all the support we can get. If you just want to donate $5, you can. But if you donate $24.99, you'll get hours upon hours of footage of some phenomenal physicians and some phenomenal people that were not in the film. It's going to be their interviews, and so we will send those to you if you donate $24.99. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. We never know how far reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. There's always hope. God bless you.